I read 67 books this year, and 27 of them I rated 4.5 stars and above. So I'm going to tell you about every single one of them, but briefly and in categories, because I don't want to do that much talking, but also I like to put things in boxes. So first up is nonfiction. First, we have Refuse to Be Done. This was a writing skill book that I found to be really uplifting and positive, and it really broke down how to write a first draft and just get the first draft done as simply as possible. And a lot of the stuff I was already doing, which was quite rewarding, is that the word I want? Sure, rewarding. And overall, I just thought it was really well written. I listened to the audiobook, would definitely recommend the audiobook if that is your jam. Strong Female Character was a really hard-hitting memoir by Fern Brady, who is a comedian. She's a late diagnosed autistic, and she has had a hell of a life. She is brutally honest about the shit that she has gone through in order to survive, and the way that her autism affects her, and some of the extreme ways that it affects her, and the extreme things that she has done because she thought she had to, because she thought that was normal, or because she actually did have to. I think it's really eye-opening for those people who are still a bit iffy when it comes to late diagnosed autistic women, because I know there are a lot of people out there who have doubts as to the credibility. And I think when you read a memoir like this, it's very hard not to see reason. Semi-Well Adjusted is Alison Stoner's memoir about growing up in the entertainment industry and how that affected her life and her mental health and her family life. There's a lot of sad things in here, but it doesn't go as sad as some do. So it doesn't go anywhere near as far as I'm Glad My Mum Died by Jeanette McCurdy. It's a very earnest and honest memoir, and I really enjoyed the insight she gave into the nitty gritty of what auditions look like, or what it looks like when you book a pilot, or what reactions from people look like when you do certain things at certain ages. I found that really eye-opening. Scorpions by Tuppence Middleton is another memoir about her struggles with OCD and emetophobia and how they interlink and the nuances of each of those. She writes in a really succinct, concise way that I find really appealing and really easy to understand and relate to. The Criminal Mind by Duncan Harding is a really tough read. Please check trigger warnings for this. He is a child forensic psychologist, so he is the person that the courts go to when a child has either been the victim of or has committed a heinous crime, whether that's murder, arson, theft, assault, anything really nasty. Basically, he has to decide what their mental state was at the time, whether they're a psychopath, whether they're a narcissist, what is going on in their head. Were they capable of understanding what they did? Are they capable of remorse? That kind of thing. So lots of graphic details in this. If you're a fan of Criminal Minds, the show, you will enjoy this book, but it does hit harder knowing that he's talking about real cases. Next, we have the mythological fantasy category. First up is The Witch's Heart. This is a Norse mythology retelling about Angrboda the witch, who I knew very little about. I knew her name before reading this book. It's the story of her life and her romance with a famous god or demigod. I don't know what the distinction is. I just really loved how this was told. I really loved the way that Angrboda was our anchor in the storm, and all of these NPCs just came in and out of the story as necessary, and the different ways they affected her life, and the batshit way that Norse mythology handles magic and creation, and seeing the stories I sort of know from this perspective was really interesting. Then we have Le Fay by Sophie Keach. This is the sequel to Morgan Is My Name. So I won't say much about Le Fay, but Morgan Is My Name is about Morgan Le Fay, who is King Arthur's half-sister, and it talks about her life from start to finish, how she comes into those tales. So you will know some of what's going on and you will recognise some of the characters. But I think it's a really in-depth take on the story, and it's hard to imagine that these people weren't real. The way that she's talking about them, everything is so entirely plausible, apart from the magic, obviously, but even the magic is plausible in its own setting. It's full of feminine rage, it's full of revenge, it's full of danger and adventure and horrible people doing horrible things. and I really enjoyed it. Formidable Miss Cassidy is about a very unconventional nanny who goes to Singapore in the 1890s to look after the last daughter left in this family after the wife and 4 or 5 of the other children have died from cholera. So it's just the father and the single daughter left, but supernatural things start to happen. It seems like there is more under the surface of this setting than there originally seemed. It's a little bit irreverent, it's a little bit of a giggle, and it's also quite dangerous. And you learn a lot about mythology in that end of the world as well, which I really enjoyed. Next, we have my comfort reads. First is The Hobbit. I reread this at the beginning of the year. I don't need to tell you what The Hobbit's about. Stellar reread every time. Miss Pettigrew Lives for a Day was my favourite film, is still my favourite film, but I'd never read the book, so I read the book. And it's a bit like if Gilmore Girls and Legally Blonde meshed, but it's set in between the Great World Wars, so there's flappers. And it's just really fast-paced and funny and witty and so easy to read for an old book. Virago published this. I have a really lovely edition, which I'm really glad I found in the charity shop. And I would really recommend this to everyone. It's so offbeat compared to what I normally read, but it's just so good. It's so funny. A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandana it's on the heavier side of cozy, but it's about a witch who has lost her magic and is trying to get it back. There is some fantastic autism representation in a child, what some people call high needs autism, and there are some brilliant side characters. Is it a chicken possessed by a demon? Am I making that up? No, it's an undead chicken. I'm mixing up my dead chickens. And some really despicable bad guys, and it's really lovely because it's cozy because of the fan family trope, and Sangu Mandana does that really, really well. Snake Eater by T. Kingfisher is the coziest horror you'll ever read, because again, there's strong themes of found family, but there's also strong themes of domestic abuse and poverty and pride and sort of trying to get your life back, but in a very mystical way, in the desert, in a town where there aren't many people, and there are snakes and there are roadrunners and there are peacocks and there are old gods in the desert who take an interest in things that they absolutely shouldn't. Next, we have the Unsettling Reads. First up, we have The Bog Wife. This is a lesson in don't always take what your parents say for granted. Learn some critical thinking skills as soon as you can, and don't sleep with women who come out of bogs. Yeah, I think I'm going to leave it at that. Hemlock and Silver by T. Kingfisher. This is a retelling of Snow White. It has got elements of her fairy tale retellings, her romance, and her horror all wrapped up into one. So if you like any of those elements, you will find some of that in this book. It is a unique take on Snow White, for sure. We follow Anya, who deals in poisons and often poisons herself for the sake of finding a cure, and she is hired to find out why Snow, the princess, is so sickly, because the king thinks she is being poisoned. Every element of the original fairy tale is kind of turned on its head and twisted a little bit, and it is really good. It's not her best retelling. There are definitely better ones, but I did still enjoy this. This was a solid 4.5. Oh, there are 3 T. Kingfishers on this list. The next one is What Stalks the Deep. This is the 3rd in the Sworn Soldier series, which has a non-binary protagonist. This time they have gone to a remote mine in the middle of America because an old friend's cousin has been lost down it or something, but there is a creature of some kind in the deep, people think. So they go hunting this creature. If you are claustrophobic, do not read this book. It is actually hideous. Some of the ways that she describes stuff and some of the things that minors put up with. Horrifying. Hated it. But loved it. At the same time, this was a 5-star read. She just does such a good job of freaking you out. Next, we have Little Rock by Akwaeke Emezi. This one is not fantasy. This is set in, I think it's Lagos in Nigeria, and we follow a whole sort of extended friendship group where we follow a bunch of different people and it becomes clear how they all know each other and how they all interlink. But there's heavy themes of like sex and pressure and manipulation and danger and horror and things like that. But in the modern day, completely non-fantastical. And Akwaeke Emezi does such fantastic character work. I did not ever have a problem telling all of these characters apart. They're a poet, I think, as well, and you can really tell that in the writing. It's just so, so good and so engaging. And then there's Wolfworm by T. Kingfisher. This one isn't out until March, I believe, but I had an ARC. And if you don't like bugs, do not read this book. We follow an illustrator who has been hired by an entomologist, a bug person, who wants an illustrator for his new book, basically. But there's weird things going on at the house. He's a cantankerous, horrible old man, and she's just trying to work out what the hell is going on. And there's a lot of bug horror, and also another flavour of mythical horror that I won't touch on because it's kind of a spoiler. But this was straight up 5-star. Absolutely horrifying. I kind of never want to leave my house again. Next, we have the Feminine Rage section. Allow Me to Introduce Myself is a book that I have been harping on about all year, and I can't believe it was this year that I read it. This is a fictional take on what happens when the child influencers grow up. So we follow our main character, who was a child influencer because her stepmother basically pimped her out to the internet, and we see her dealing with repercussions of that. But now her stepmother is going to try and do the same thing to her younger stepsister, and it's about her reactions and the hard conversations you've got to have and the impact that all of that has had on our main character's life, whose name I can't remember. But it is a fantastic book, and it's one of my special interests as well, which is why I'm so about it. But I really do think more people should read this, especially if you are consuming content on the internet. I think you should read this and have a think about your consumption of children on the internet, but also how others consume media centred around children on the internet, because there are some really hard things to learn, to understand. And I think more people's opinions would change if they thought about it for more than about 3 seconds. The Change was a recent read. This follows 3 women who discover the body of a dead girl, and each of them have powers, but not in a Avengers sort of way, in a just sort of low-key, you kind of forget that it's not fantastical kind of way. We have Nessa, who can see and speak to the dead. We have Jo, who can heat things up and set things on fire. And I won't tell you what Harriet's thing is because I think it's a bit of a spoiler. But it's been described as The Witches of Eastwick meet Big Little Lies. It's very feminist-centred, anti-misogyny, anti-sexism, anti-murdering women and violence against women. So it's a big one if you like reading about feminine rage. And it's a chunky book, but there is no filler in it. And it's just fantastic. I really, really loved it. Then there's Kill the Beast. I haven't talked about this one yet. This is by Sarah Swift. I binged the audiobook in 2 sittings. This is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, but it has very Witcher vibes because our main character is a beast killer. She will go after the fairy beasts that taunt the human world and terrorise the human world, and she will kill them for the bounty until she meets one guy who gives her a bounty on the beast that killed her family. So there's this thread of feminine rage and vengeance and that kind of thing, but also there's a sort of slow found family almost, or friendship basically, that builds throughout this book. And I just thought it was really nice that they didn't go where all the other books in this genre tend to go. And I thought that was really refreshing. And I really enjoyed the way that the story was told. It's also narrated by Moira Quirk, if you are a fan, so hugely recommend. Next category is Down with the System. The first one on this list is The Shape of Dragon's Breath by Monoquill Blackgoose. This is about a native girl in a fantasy world who discovers a dragon's egg and is forced to go to this school run by the colonizers, who basically tell her that everything she knows is wrong, and she is an anchor in the storm around all these people trying to tell her what to do, and she stands firm and she doesn't change. And I heard someone describe it as like the antithesis of a character arc, because she doesn't change throughout the book, everyone changes around her. I think it's a brilliant way of looking at it, and I kind of wish I read more books like that. Really, really intense themes of colonialism and xenophobia and racism, and it's one of those magic school books that gets really in depth into how the magic works and gets quite sciencey about it. If that's your thing, There's some good autism representation in it. It's going to make you really angry, and I think more people should read it because there's dragons and a magic school. I mean, most people want that out of a book. Blood over Brighthaven. I really did enjoy this book. I can understand why it was massive when it came out and why there was a big boom around everyone thinking it was fantastic, because it is a fantastic book. Some people can see the twist coming. If you can see the twist coming, I can understand why you wouldn't be quite as blown away by it, but I could not see it coming. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. This is about a female mage, the first ever to get into this academy for various reasons. And she is treated horribly, and she shows them up, basically. And she is a big nerd, and all she wants to do is be good at this magic, discover how it works. And she's very close-sighted and also very autistic coded, which I enjoyed. And it's just a romp of a book that will break your heart if you let it. Yeah. The Midnight Bargain is a historical fantasy. Is it a mystery? Kind of a mystery, where in this magic system, only men can wield magic, because women, when they get married, they have collars put around their neck that stop them from being able to access magic, which is, in this world, it's a spirit-based magic system. They cannot engage with the spirits when they have this collar around their neck. This is ostensibly because men do not want to put their women in danger, because if a woman gets pregnant and a spirit enters her body, she will give birth to to a demon, basically, rather than a child. So the line is, women have to wear these collars to protect them so that men can have as many babies as they want without putting them at risk of becoming demons, because clearly women are nothing but baby-making machines. So that in itself, infuriating. And we have one woman who is determined that she wants to join this council or academy or this group of wizards. She wants to learn how to do magic, because you learn out of books. She wants to access these grimoires, and she wants to summon a greater demon, because that is the mark of being able to be a great wizard. She doesn't want to get married, so that's her goal. But when she finally locates this book that will tell her how to summon a greater demon, this rich lady and her brother snag it first. And it's about trying to get that book back, because maybe this lady also wants the same thing as her. And it's another book with strong themes of feminine rage and trying to dismantle a system that doesn't work and is deeply discriminating. Then we have Siren Queen by Nevo. This is not one that I've ever heard anyone else speak about. This is historical fantasy set in the 1920s. Our main character wants to be a silent film star, and that's a lie. She wants to be a film star in early LA, Hollywood. So she basically sells her soul to get into this, because that is what you have to do. The leaders of all these production companies form a wild hunt that roam around every Saturday. You have to sell your soul or other parts of you in order to become more beautiful, more attractive, better on screen, to get better parts. And it's the oddest intertwining of typical fae and fairy folklore and 1920s Hollywood that I've ever seen. I think it's really well done, and it's just so mystical and off-putting, and the main character is not a good person ever, not even morally great, just not a good person straight up, but she's still likable, which I think is really interesting. But I really enjoyed this read. It really took me by surprise. And my last category is a bit ridiculous. So we have the Undetectables, who are a group of people who are trying to solve mysteries. One of them has a chronic illness. One of them is a ghost who died in a cat costume, so forever has painted on whiskers and ears. And they are trying to solve a mystery in their hometown, and they put together this detective agency, and they've been friends for a while, and certain things put their friendships under strain, and this mystery affects them quite closely. And I think there's really good disability rep in this for a chronic fatigue style disability, and it's just really funny, it's really quirky, it's really irreverent, but it also hits really hard with some of the more dramatic and melodramatic elements. The Incandescent by Emily Tesh was fantastic. This is about a teacher on the senior leadership team of another magical school, and she does all the risk assessments, and she teaches these students how to summon demons, and something goes wrong, and they are trying to work out how to keep the school safe with the help of this specialist that gets brought in, and it's kind of just the life of a teacher at a magic school with this big dramatic nonsense happening in the background, and it's just so practical. And that's exactly how teachers would act if they were having to teach like 16-year-olds how to summon level 4 demons or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, it's just tongue-in-cheek, by representation, the sapphic representation. There is a little bit of mystery behind it. The B plot is really interesting. I just really loved it, and not just because it's a boarding school and a teaching thing and it's sapphic, because all of those are straight up my alley. And lastly, we have Dreadful by Caitlin Rozakis. This is satirical about a Dark Lord who has lost all of his memories, and he wakes up in his tower with no eyebrows because he's blown himself up, and some of his buddies ring through on the magic mirror and he realises he's a Dark Lord, and he's got goblins that answer every beck and call. And there's a princess in his dungeon, and why is there a princess in his dungeon? And oh my god, his big boss is coming around to visit in a week. How the hell is he supposed to work out how to be a Dark Lord again in time? And it's just really fucking stupid. It's hilarious. I really recommend it. Fantastic goblin rep. And that's really all I need for a book. But that's it. Those are the 27 books that I rated 4.5 stars or higher this year. I want you to read all of them. All of them. They should be at the top of your 2026 TBR. I would like you to leave a chicken emoji in the comments if you made it this far. I am now going to have a nap because it's New Year's and I want to. And I will see you in the next video.